Part 90. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 891. Although Father Lu is a landowner, he is a landowner who is full of knowledge. He has a lot in common with the academic gentleman. Now that they live in the same cowshed, he can't help but feel sympathy for them and provide them with some help in private, so Father Lu knows their specific situation. Hearing Father Lu say a personal name, Feng Qingxiu swallowed her saliva and stared blankly. The few gentlemen who came from the capital are all masters in the academic world, and they are still top masters. If you just name them casually, they are all masters who will be admired by future generations. In terms of seniority, Lu Xiaonan and Lin Yufen are both their descendants. Moreover, two of the old gentlemen should have died in August or September last year in their previous lives. Not only did they not die now, they were also sent to the Wanglu Brigade. Based on the situation of the Wanglu Brigade, they can definitely save their lives. In fact, the folks in Wanglu Brigade respect scholars, are honest and kind-hearted, and are very grateful. Even if the people assigned here are known to be of bad quality, no one will deliberately harm them. The main reason is that they are worried that the people in their own brigade will not be able to take the responsibility for their lives. Of course, the most important thing is that the folks have life experience and are not as hot-headed as students from the outside world. Dad, Comrade Kui is probably Comrade Kui Xiaoyuan, Feng Qingxiu said. Without Father Lu asking, Feng Qingxiu told him exactly what happened to save Kui Hongbin on the road. Comrade Kui Xiaoyuan is the son of Comrade Kui Hongbin. When Ajiang and I were reported, the person who handled the matter was Comrade Kui Xiaoyuan. It can be said that he also helped us a lot if someone we don't know or an enemy comes to investigate, even if we were not involved in corruption and bribery, they would still charge us with an unfounded crime. Father Lu patted his heart and said, "What goes around comes around, and what goes around comes around." Maybe Comrade Kui considered you and Ajiang's character and knew the situation of our Wanglu Brigade, so he arranged them here. The men themselves said that if they left the capital in June and July, their lives would be saved, because there were so many casualties in August and September. Speaking of this, Father Lu whispered, two of those from the capital have taught Comrade Kui. In other words, they are Comrade Kui's former teachers. Don't forget the teacher, this Comrade Kui is amazing. Feng Qingxiu asked which two they were and found that they had not died in their previous life because they were devolved. From this point of view, Kui Xiaoyuan really lived up to his name. Lu Jiangdao, Dad, since they are all old-timers, let's treat them to a meal in the evening. The dinner will be later, and the children are almost asleep. It is a bit deliberate to disturb them late at night after the meal. You and Zioxiu have just arrived home. Are you busy cooking for so many people? Let's talk about it another day. Feng Qingxiu naturally sides with her husband. She also wants to get to know those masters in history as soon as possible. Even if they meet once and exchange a few words, they can be praised for a lifetime. What's the point of having a simple meal? Just bake a bunch of cakes, stir-fry a few vegetables, and cook a pot of rice. There are people at home taking care of the children. Ajong and I will do it. It won't take long. They come from afar, we should fulfill our friendship as landlords, and only by treating them on the first day can we show that Ajiang and I value them. Since the couple said so, Father Lu naturally had no objection. So Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu were busy at home. He went back to the cowshed to take care of the animals. When the group of decentralized intellectuals came back from their work, he smiled and said to them, "My son and his wife are back. Come to my house in the evening on an empty stomach, eat it." Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 892. Upon hearing this, several people laughed out loud at the same time. "Congratulations, congratulations, everyone is here except your eldest grandson." The person who said this looked envious, envious of Father Lu's life. Yes, Tianjun is the only one missing from our family. But when he becomes a soldier, he has to abide by the rules of the army. He will stay at home until he is 18 years old. I am tired of looking at him every day. It doesn't matter if he is missing from me. My current treasures are our two babies, Zibeo and Fubeo. Father Lu smiled heartily. When mentioning Zibeo and Fubeo, Father Lu's old face stretched out like a yellow flower. Uncle Su said with emotion, unknowingly, it has been more than 3 years since Zibeo left. He was white and fat when he left. He didn't change much in the photos you brought. Why has he lost so much weight now? When you have time, take it with you. Let us all take a closer look. There is also little Fubeo. When I was working in the fields, I saw Tianzi holding her from a distance. She looked really strange. It is made of snowballs and carved from white jade, which is used to describe Fubao. It looks like a windy cloud. Father Lu smiled and said, you can see them when you come to my house for dinner at night, but you can only see them sleeping. Why? Several old gentlemen asked. Our identities are too sensitive. If we get together and are seen by the two children, we are afraid that they will leak it when they are young, so we want to wait until they go to bed before we eat and chat together. Father Lu said solemnly, the two children just came together today after getting off the bus. I didn't sleep long on the mule cart at noon, and I went to bed very early at night, so we didn't miss our meal. The old gentleman named Wenryu smiled and said, eating is a trivial matter, but I would like to meet your son and daughter-in-law. He and Jinruoku had taught Kui Xiaoyuan, and Kui Xiaoyuan arranged for them to be transferred here. Before departure, Kui Xiaoyuan met with them in the name of interrogating them, and told them privately that they were assigned to Wanglu Brigade because Wanglu Brigade had Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu were a couple who were benevolent and kind, and could speak well in the Wanglu Brigade. Yes, Lu Jiang's composition is not good, but the old leader has spoken and the issue of his composition is not allowed to be raised again. The second is that Feng Qingxiu's uncle is in charge of everything in the Wanglu Brigade. Lu's father is so poor but lives a good life in the Wanglu Brigade. This shows Wang Zhenqiu's character. After being received by the old leader, he returned to the Wanglu Brigade even more, orders and prohibitions. The third and most important reason is that it is not easy to create a big man in a remote mountain village. If one person can achieve enlightenment, chickens and dogs can ascend to heaven. Even if the big man is not good, they will support him very much, because when they are oppressed by other people's power, they can ask this big man. Ask for help, and for the sake of this big shot, others won't bully you. Although Wang Xinchen is also from the Wanglu Brigade, he hasn't gone back for decades. He probably went back under a changed name. Not many of his fellow villagers know him, so the name of Lu Zhang and his wife is not as useful as Lu Zhang and his wife. Kui Xiaoyuan arranged the two teachers and several of their old friends to the Wanglu Brigade after careful consideration. With their influence, anyone staying in the capital would be certain to die. After listening to Wenruyu's words, Father Lu knew that Comrade Kui was most likely Kui Xiaoyuan. We can see him in the evening. After you reminded me, I remembered it. I forgot to ask them why they came back suddenly. How can it be so easy to take a military vacation? Moreover, the couple took vacation at the same time, so there must be something inside. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 893. Aunt Sue smiled and said, you guys can just wash your hands and rest for a while, or take care of the animals. I'll help Xiaoxiu cook. In times of crisis, Feng Qingxiu was the first person to reach out to her and help her, her husband, and children tide over the difficulties. She would remember this kindness for the rest of her life, and it was also thanks to Feng Qingxiu that there were successors to the Guan family. Therefore, when she saw Feng Qingxiu, the smile on Aunt Su's face was as bright as when Father Lu mentioned his grandchildren. After Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang prepared the ingredients, they made dinner for the children in advance, because except for the adult Guan Cheng, the other children would be embarrassed to eat at the table due to etiquette concepts. Currently, she was feeding Fu Bao, who was sitting on her lap. Eating noodles. Auntie is here, sit down quickly, I won't get up. I felt quite embarrassed. You don't have to get up to feed the child. Aunt Su pressed down Guan Yu and others who had stood up, and looked at Fu Bao carefully. I was far away in the afternoon and couldn't see clearly. Now that I saw him, I couldn't help but praise him repeatedly. Looks like you, this is a lucky treasure, right? Ban Ban, Grandma sits on Ban Ban. Fu Bao swallowed the noodles in his mouth, reached out and patted the chair next to Feng Qingxiu. She was supposed to be sitting, she wanted to sit in her mother's arms, so the chair was empty. Aunt Su exclaimed, "What a good boy, with such a sweet mouth." Bao swallowed a mouthful of poached eggs and said, "Grandma, my mouth is also very sweet. If you don't believe me, try it." Compared with the face of ordinary children, which is still very pale, there are two big eyes that are skeletal and cunning, and they suddenly overlap with the white and fat look of childhood. Aunt Su couldn't help but smile and walked over to kiss her. On his forehead, "I know our Bao is the best, but you actually recognize Grandma. You're so smart." "Yeah," Bao accepted the compliment without any politeness. Feng Qingxiu shook her head. He was only 1.5 years old when he left home. Now he is almost 5 years old. He has only a small brain capacity. He doesn't look at photos every day. He doesn't remember anyone. But he can't resist his sweet mouth. When he meets an older person, just call Grandma and Grandpa out of habit. Both children are so well behaved. It's great, it's great, it's great." Aunt Su was very happy for Feng Qingxiu. "It's so good," Bao repeated, pointing to the remaining half bowl of noodles and a half poached egg. "Grandma eats it?" "Mom's noodles are delicious." Aunt Su touched his head and said, "Grandma won't eat it, but Bao will." Bao groaned, picked up the noodles with his chopsticks, and stuffed them into his mouth. The noodles were a bit long and hung down. He sucked them into his mouth with a slurp, without the adults looking at him. Lu Tianzi, Guan Yu, and Feng Qingyun took Bao and Fu Bao to play in the house after dinner. The three of them are handsome men and beautiful women. They are almost the most beautiful young people Bao and Fu Bao have ever seen. Therefore, even if they just met today, the brothers and sisters like to play with them and follow Feng Qing directly. "Goodbye, Snow." Aunt Su helped clear the dishes and followed Feng Qingxiu to the kitchen, where she found Guan Cheng and Lu Zhang washing and chopping vegetables. Aunt Su smiled when she saw this grandnephew. Feng Qingxiu thought of the unanswered questions during the day. Is there anyone who can help Aiken? Our Aiken is so good looking, has a high level of education, and is a good doctor. He must be the son-in-law of the daughter's family nearby, right? Guan Cheng's face suddenly turned red. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 894. Aunt Su pursed her lips and smiled. "Several people asked your eldest sister to mention it to your father, but Aiken didn't agree." "Why?" Feng Qingxiu asked. Guan Cheng was a little hesitant at first, unable to bear Feng Qingxiu's curiosity, and he also knew that Feng Qingxiu cared about him, so he whispered, "In one's life, if one seeks a close friend, how can one do it rashly?" The marriage in his mind is like that between his parents, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu. Only by loving each other can we live a life together. Most of the girls in the Wanglu Brigade are very good, innocent and honest, hard-working and capable, but they are not suitable for him. He can do laundry and cooking. He does not need a partner who can wash and cook for him. What he pursues is a congenial temperament and a similar soul. It was a coincidence that the other party would not be confused when he mentioned Yang Chun Baixu, because they wanted to get along day and night for a lifetime, not just a day or two. There were also some people who asked Miao Fengqin and Wang Fengqiao to be matchmakers. They only had daughters at home. They probably felt that they were orphans, so they wanted to make themselves their son-in-law to carry on their family lineage. From then on, they settled in Wanglu Brigade. Guancheng will never agree to this. The Guan family's long history of scholarship ended with his father, and all cultural classics were burned. The responsibility he shouldered was not only to raise his younger brother, but also to revitalize the Guan family, let the Guan family reappear in the eyes of the world, and tell them that the Guan family has no descendants. The Guan family still has talents, and the Guan family is still the same Guan family and has not been lost in history. It's not that he looks down on his son-in-law, but he has his responsibilities. This heavy responsibility makes him remember the fact that he is a descendant of the Guan family all the time. His younger brother is young and a posthumous son, so he has no impression of the Guan family. Only he can restore the lintel of the Guan family. The situation is now chaotic, and he doesn't know when he will be able to tell his identity openly and openly. With such a background, he doesn't dare to get married casually. He doesn't want to implicate others. Although Feng Qingxiu didn't know Guancheng's specific thoughts, she was so smart. She could tell something from Guancheng's expression, and combined with Guancheng's love for her younger brother, she could guess pretty well. Yes, marriage is very important and should not be taken lightly. We, Aiken, are still young and should search for and confirm it carefully. Guancheng nodded vigorously. Yes, yes, Auntie has time to ask me, why not hold Tianwan's eyes for me? Although Tianwan is younger than me, he is still old enough to marry a wife. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, I don't worry about Tianjun, not at all. As soon as he said these words, the other three people in the kitchen looked at him, and Lu Zhang blurted out, do you have someone chosen? Of course, Zhang Xiaoyu, they were husband and wife in the previous life, and they were a husband and wife who were in love with each other. It's not whether there is a candidate, but Tianjun is a soldier now. He has to work hard and achieve some results before he can talk about his wife. The situation is completely different between ordinary soldiers talking about wife and officers talking about wife. Feng Qingxiu did not mention Zhang Xiaoyu, she doesn't know if Li Jun has made a mistake now, but she has to wait until Li Jun makes a mistake, the two families fall out, and the marriage cannot continue, so that she can act as a matchmaker for Zhang Xiaoyu. She hopes that she can get together with Lu Tianjun in advance, and maybe things will change. They were destined to have no children in their previous lives. I don't know what evil the Lu family did in their previous life. Lu Zhang never married. As the heir to the Lu family, Lu Tianjun had no children in his life. In the end, all the burden fell on Lu Tianzi and his children. Thinking of Lu Tianzi, who was still somewhat naive and childish, Feng Qingxiu rubbed her forehead. Yes, there is still time to worry. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 895. After hearing Feng Qingxiu's words, Lu Zhang smiled and said, why do I think you have someone chosen? He just didn't tell him. Feng Qingxiu gave him a white look. Wash your vegetables and chop your vegetables. Where does all this nonsense come from? Guancheng covered his mouth and laughed secretly a few times. He looked at the ingredients prepared and said, Auntie, can the pork be made into dongpo pork? Huh? Dongpo meat? Why, Guancheng rarely puts forward his own requests, so every time he pleads for mercy, Feng Qingxiu takes it seriously, and she will agree to it within the scope of her ability. Teacher Jin's teeth are not very good, but he prefers to eat meat, and it is dongpo meat. And Su explained, Mr. Jin Ruoka was decentralized from the capital. He is 70 years old this year. He has been abroad before. He is proficient in Russian, French and Japanese. He also understands medicine, is good at calligraphy and painting, and is full of economics. He is a mathematician. Physicist, with the help of your father, Guancheng secretly became his disciple and became his close disciple. Father Lu knew Guancheng's wish, so he did this. Fortunately, Jin Ruoku was very satisfied with Guancheng. Feng Qingxiu was surprised and happy, what a good thing. Jin Ruoku, he has taught dozens of outstanding students in various industries, and some of them are national scientific research talents. He should be in the stage of anonymity now, so he has not been affected by the 10 years of catastrophe. Auntie, do you think so too? Don't you care about teacher Jin's composition? Of course, character, knowledge, and composition have nothing to do with each other. Who said that those with bad composition are bad people? Just think about your grandfather and father. If I had cared about Mr. Jin and their composition, I wouldn't have given to Night Street. Feng Qingxiu had a smile on her face. Aiken, I'm happy for you, really. Although my father has been teaching you and Tianjun secretly over the years, I know that the old man feels it is not enough, so he helps you connect the dots, let you worship Mr. Jin as your teacher. You must cherish this opportunity, even if you don't have the opportunity now, you must study hard, and all the accumulation is to prepare for the future. Guanchen nodded heavily. Don't worry, Auntie, I will study hard and be filial to my teacher. He knows better than anyone else that he must seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As he grows older, the more he learns and sees, the more he understands his own shallowness, and the more he wants to learn knowledge that he has not been exposed to. Everything about the Guan family has disappeared. He can only rely on his own efforts and never miss any opportunity to learn. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, okay, this piece of meat will be made into dongpo pork. I originally planned to make braised pork. This piece of meat was fresh meat, of course it was taken out of the space, and was going to be given to the family as a tooth memorial. However, apparently she and Lu Zhang took the time to get off the mule cart and go to the grocery store to buy it. In fact, the grocery store was empty. According to the number of people provided by Aunt Su, Feng Qingxiu prepared meals for 16 people. Uncle Su and his wife, Lu's father, Lu Zhang, her, and Guancheng, that's 6 people. Among the remaining 10, 2 are from Wanglu Brigade School, 3 are from Huihei City, and 5 are from the capital. There are 5 masters from the capital, 4 men and 1 woman, Wen Ruyu, Jin Ruoku, Huang Qinghong, Zhu Ling and Wen Aiyu. The 5 masters include painters, writers, translators, mathematicians, physicists, educators, calligraphers, etc. Some of them have many names combined into one, and they can be called the Taishan Baidu of the academic world. Among them, the oldest and most noble ones are Wen Ruyu, Jin Ruoku, and Zhu Ling. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 896. Based on their respect for these masters, Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang carefully prepared a large table of dishes, opened 2 bottles of Maotai and 2 bottles of Fenjiu, and used all the supplies they could currently display in front of others. As far as Feng Qingxiu knows, except for Wen Yu and Aunt Su, 2 women who don't drink, all of these masters like it. Wen Ruyu is 72 years old this year. Everyone recommended him to sit in the first place, alongside the head of the family, Father Lu. He looked at the dishes on the table and raised his thumbs at Father Lu. Your son and daughter-in-law are so generous. I like. Can it be less atmospheric? Everyone felt respected. A big bowl of dongpo pork, no more, no less, just 16 pieces, square, bright red in color, fragrant and fragrant. A plate of cut lunch meat, a plate of cut salted duck eggs, a plate of 5-spice peanuts, a plate of scrambled eggs with Chinese tune, a plate of fried bacon with garlic sprouts, a plate of fried sausages with red pepper, a plate of cold wild mint, and a plate of oil. Stir-fried wolfberry sprouts with salt, stewed a large bowl of air-dried wild rabbit and a large bowl of air-dried chicken, and cooked a large bowl of mother-in-law egg drop soup. Both meat and vegetables, well matched. Red is red, green is green, and yellow is yellow, all in color and fragrance. The staple food is white flour pancakes and rice, because some people like pasta, and some like rice, like Wen Yu. Although she and her husband Zhu Ling were sent from the capital, they are from Jiangnan and like to eat rice. Wen Yu said softly to Feng Qingxiu, "Thank you for your hard work, cooking so many dishes. Even in the capital, their food is not as good as the one in front of them." Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "It's not hard. Zhang and I have admired the names of you gentlemen for a long time. We are really happy and scared to see you gentlemen today. We are afraid that we will not entertain you well. The hospitality is very thoughtful, Jin Ruoku said hurriedly, eyes only staring at Dongpo pork. When he said this, everyone else laughed and said, "Yes, we are already flattered. You treat us like this, and we really feel an indescribable feeling in our hearts. We only know what is most valuable when we are in trouble. There are those who avoid others, and there are those who add insult to injury, but there are only a few who offer help when it is time for them. Except for the 2 teachers from Wanglu Brigade School who knew Wanglu Brigade well, the others thought they would die of old age in the countryside after being sent here, but unexpectedly they gained a glimmer of hope. Except for the tiring work here, I have not been abused in other aspects, especially the mental aspect. Compared with the situation in the capital and Huihei City, I feel like I am in a heavenly palace." Father Lu greeted, "Stop talking, let's eat the food while it's hot. What can't we say after eating? Zhang, pour the wine for all the old gentlemen and get your chopsticks. Don't be stunned." Lu Zhang responded, and hurriedly and Guancheng poured them wine and handed them chopsticks. Don't dare. You are a state cotter now," Jin Ruoku said hurriedly. Everyone felt respectful towards Guancheng, because they were all teachers and elders of Guancheng. Even the 2 teachers from Wanglu Brigade had taught Guancheng, but they did not take the respect for Lu Zhang so naturally. Lu Zhang smiled and said, "You are an old gentleman, an old senior, what can't you do? We don't care whether we are a cotter or not." Feng Qingxiu picked up the chopsticks in front of Ansu and Wen Yu and handed them into their hands. "Ansu, Mr. Wen, please don't move your chopsticks and try the craftsmanship of a Zhang and a Cheng. If you like it, please invite me again next time you." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 897. Jin Ruoku said, "Xiaoxiu, your name is Xiaoxiu, right? I heard Lao Lu call you that." "Yes, you can just call me Xiaoxiu." Feng Qingxiu felt that it was her honor to speak face to face with the masters here. "Okay, Lao Jinyi Lao Ma Lao, will call you Xiaoxiu. Xiaoxiu, sit down and don't let us. We won't be polite to you in front of this table of fine wine and delicacies." Feng Qingxiu found that no one was polite. "Although there is no immediate danger of life or mental torture when I come here, the food is not good at all. It is all simple food and there is not a trace of meat. When I lived in the city, I had some pork every year or every month. The supplies are all gone now." A few old gentlemen were very greedy. There was no way they were polite. They took a few sips of wine and started to feast. Only the 2 women, Wen Yu and Ansu, were more reserved. They ate a few chopsticks of vegetables, rice, and some soup before they were full. Feng Qingxiu was not short of food, so she drank a bowl of wild vegetable soup and ate some wild vegetables in the evening. On the table, most of the wild vegetables were left, and she ate all the meat and eggs. Jinruoku ate 3 pieces of dongpo meat alone. Neither of them ate the portions given to him, Guancheng and Feng Qingxiu. They paid filial piety to Jinruoku, while Lu Jiang's share of dongpo meat was given to Wen Ruyu. Who knows, the 2 oldest and favorite people on the table were full. What about eating meat? Respecting the old and loving the young is human nature. After swallowing the last bite of food, Jinruoku pointed to the cold wild mint and fried wolfberry sprouts with oil and salt, and said, even if the fried wolfberry sprouts with oil and salt are famous all over the world and are a famous dish in a dream of red mansions, I don't like to eat them. Eat wild vegetables, I really don't care about being full at all, my stomach is empty within half an hour, and I am so tired when I work, I have suffered the consequences of the boss. Feng Qingxiu pursed her lips and smiled, in the future, people's lives will be better. If you, the old man, eat a lot of fish and meat every day, you will think of wild vegetables at this time, and feel that wild vegetables are more fragrant and healthy. If that day comes, it will be a blessing to the people. I don't know if I can survive until then. It must be possible, just wait and see. If you don't believe me, in his previous life, this old man did not die in bloody August because of Kui Shiyuan's help. After being rehabilitated, he returned to the capital and lived to be 100 years old. He is a famous longevity star. He is 70 years old this year and has 30 more years to live. Jinruoku laughed loudly and said to Father Lu, this kid has such a sweet mouth. My daughter-in-law is the lucky star of our family. The most proud thing in my life is that after meeting her, I decisively called Ajiang back to let them meet, which made their marriage successful. Our family's life is getting better day by day. Okay, Father Lu showed his respect for Feng Qingxiu without hesitation. My daughter-in-law is smart by nature and very studious. She is also involved in calligraphy, painting, foreign languages, and medicine. You are both seniors. Please give me some advice when you have time. She will benefit from it all her life. Jinruoku sighed, these things we learned in the past have become old culture, as if the world has changed overnight. I just like the culture passed down by our ancestors. Feng Qingxiu smiled, picked up the teapot, and poured them a bowl of tea one by one. The teacups were probably bought by Lu's father, Lu Tianjun, and Guancheng from the black market or the flea market. Most of which are ancient porcelain. Ajiang and I are taking a 3-month leave, and I would like to ask all the teachers for your advice in your spare time. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 898. Jian Feng Qingxiu's expression showed only admiration for traditional culture, without showing a trace of disdain due to the influence of the world. Their composition issues seemed not worth mentioning in her eyes. Several masters present felt very pleased. Jinruoku looked at Wen Ruyu and said, Old Wen, what did you say? Among them, Wen Ruyu, who was born in Capital University, has extremely good calligraphy and painting skills that not everyone can achieve. Wen Ruyu is the Baidu of the painting world. Wen Ruyu thought for a while and said to Feng Qingxiu, write a few words, or draw a picture. Oh, it's late now, the kerosene lamp is dim, and it's not convenient to splash ink. Show me your previous works. Recent work. How could Feng Qingxiu let go of such a good opportunity? He responded and immediately walked into the east bedroom. Glancing at her daughter who was sleeping well on the bed, Feng Qingxiu gently opened the cabinet and actually took out her latest calligraphy and painting works from the space. She had not left aside her calligraphy, painting, foreign language, and other homework during her work. Now that you have learned it, you must stick to it. An ink lotus that combined calligraphy and painting was brought to the main room. Wen Ruyu took it in his hand and asked Lu Zhang to move the kerosene lamp over. He looked at it carefully under the light. After observing it for about 10 minutes, he handed it to Jinruoku. Old Jin, look at it. Jinruoku took one look at it and said, your skills are not weak. The brush strokes are smooth, vigorous, and charming, and the painting style is clear and elegant, unique in its own style. After carefully reading the painting, he passed it on to Zhu Ling and Wen Yu, skipping Huang Qinghong, who knew nothing about calligraphy and painting. No wonder when I first saw Xiaoxiu, I felt that she exuded a scholarly atmosphere, and she was indeed the same as us. At this level, just by studying hard and practicing on her own, although she will not become a famous person in the future, she will still be in the world. But if I get Brother Wen's guidance, my achievements will be immeasurable. When you could see that Feng Qingxiu was indeed very talented in calligraphy and painting, and he couldn't help but fall in love with talents. Zhu Ling could only agree with his wife's words, not bad, not bad. When Ruyu nodded and said to Feng Qingxiu, I see that your brushwork is exquisite. Are you a master of flowers, grass, insects, feathers, and scales? Yes. The best paintings are flowers, followed by grass, insects, and feathers, and then scales. Feng Qingxiu answered truthfully, actually, I particularly like landscape painting, but I can't get into it. Now I am busy with work and have a lot of other things. When I delved into medical skills, I temporarily put aside the study of landscape painting and continued to practice what I already knew. Jin Ruoku laughed. Lao Wen's best is landscape figures, followed by flowers, grass, and insects, and feathers and scales are not a problem for him. Of course, even if he is not the most proficient in flowers, grass, and insects, he can be 100 times better than you in an essay. Of course, no matter which one, if you practice it to the limit, you will know everything. Feng Qingxiu highly praised Wen Ruyu. Hearing such words, a smile appeared on Wen Ruyu's lean and serious face, and she handed the ink lotus picture passed back to her hand to Lu Zhang, who was aside, and said to Feng Qingxiu, bring the tea. Feng Qingxiu was stunned at first, and then her face was full of ecstasy. Amidst everyone's congratulations, Feng Qingxiu made tea herself. She used a good teacup and good tea leaves. She brought it to Wen Ruyu on a Yunlong Xianshao red sandalwood tea tray that someone had bought. She knelt down directly on her knees, held up the tea tray and said, Teacher, please have tea. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 899. Wen Ruyu is proficient in calligraphy, painting, and classical culture, so naturally she has done some research on tea sets and tea leaves. She found that the tea is her favorite Anji old white tea, and the teacup is also extraordinary, which makes her heart feel warm. Picking up the teacup and taking a sip of tea, Wen Ruyu smiled and said, the people are nice, the tea is nice, and the tea set is nice, but the water is a bit lacking. Jin Ruoka came closer to take a look and couldn't help but said, Old Wen, just be content with yourselves. If you leave here, you won't even be able to drink a sip of tea foam. If you don't eat my apprentice's meal, you'll start to look at Shu. Feng Qingxiu immediately said, the water for making tea is the well water in the brigade. Tomorrow, Ajiang and I will go up the mountain to get spring water to make tea for the teacher. Okay. Get up, don't kneel. Wen Ruyu was even more satisfied with this female disciple. After she stood up, she slowly said, Xiaoxiu, since you worship me as your teacher, you have been at home these few months, come here quietly when I am free, and I will teach you everything you can. Now that I have time, I will also tell you about the situation of my disciples. Before you, there were 8 disciples in my disciples, who died during the war. 2 more were lost after the founding of the People's Republic of China, and the remaining 4 were lost in this disaster. Speaking of this, Wen Ruyu looked sad, and several old gentlemen present also sighed. If they hadn't met a good person by chance, they wouldn't know whether they were alive or dead. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly said, Teacher, please tell me the names of the senior brothers. Jiang's comrades are all over the country. We can quietly check on them. If we meet the senior brothers in trouble, we will not hesitate to lend a hand. Wen Ruyu sighed, your senior brother's name is Wang Mo, also known as Mazai. He is the dean of an art academy in Shanghai. He must be the first to bear the brunt of this disaster. He is the person I am most worried about. He is 6 years old this year, she's over 10 years old, just a few years younger than me. The third one should be called senior sister. Her surname is He, and her name is He Kingian. She is also from Shanghai. She doesn't have a position, but what she learns belongs to the old culture. I don't know what's going on now. Your sixth senior brother is called Lu Xiaoneng. He and his wife Lin Yufen were teaching in the capital. They suddenly disappeared a few months before the accident. We don't know whether they are alive or dead. Lu Xiaoneng and Lin Yufen went to see him before leaving. They said that the situation was not right and advised him to leave. He didn't listen. He thought, what influence could he, an old man, have? As a result, he almost died from being insulted and beaten by a group of students. It would be safer if they left early. Feng Qingxiu's eyes widened when she heard Lu Xiaoneng's name. Is Lu Xiaoneng Wen Ruyu's disciple? Yes, 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 Lu Xiaoneng did learn from Wen Ruyu, and Lin Yufen learned her calligraphy and painting skills from her husband. Where is the last senior brother? There were too many people in the room, and Feng Qingxiu did not dare to reveal the news about Lu Xiaoneng and his wife. Wen Ruyu thought for a while, your last senior brother, his surname is Fu, his name is Fu Nanzheng. He is a rich man, likes to travel around, and is best at landscape painting. I am not as good as him. If he is here, he will definitely be able to draw you stepped into the door of landscape painting. However, I haven't heard from him for several years, and I don't know where he is, let alone his life and death. Fu Nanzheng, Feng Qingxiu's heart moved. What? Have you heard of this name? Feng Qingxiu said hurriedly, it sounds a bit familiar, but I can't remember it for the moment. I'll tell the teacher when I remember it. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 900. In fact, when Feng Qingxiu heard the name Fu Nanzheng, she remembered who this person was. Decades later, one of the most famous painters in the world of calligraphy and painting was also a collector. It is said that many of his collections came from the cultural relics exported by the country in exchange for foreign exchange during the catastrophe, that is, antique calligraphy and paintings copied from various households. Feng Qingxiu didn't pay much attention to his apprenticeship. It turned out that he studied under Wen Ruyu just like Lu Xiaoneng. Among the information about Fu Nanzheng, the most frequently mentioned thing is his Hong Kong citizenship. Yes, Fu Nanzheng went to Hong Kong with his family in the 1950s. It is expected that this is the reason why he and Wen Ruyu have not corresponded for many years. Because Wen Ruyu accepted Feng Qingxiu as his apprentice, the others left one after another. He was the only one left sitting in the main room and explaining the advantages and disadvantages of this ink lotus painting to Feng Qingxiu. Lu Zhang and Guancheng cleared the dining table without disturbing them. Master and disciple, only Father Lu drank tea leisurely and listened to their explanations one by one. After a long time, when Ruyu finally stopped talking, took a few sips of the tea that Lu Zhang poured for him to soothe his throat, that's it for today, you first change your writing style according to what I said, the picture will go further. Thank you, teacher. After the old man explained, Feng Qingxiu suddenly felt enlightened. Although it is said that it is up to the individual to be led by a master to practice cultivation, without this master, the apprentice would not be able to touch the threshold at all. When Ruyu waved her hand, if you have talent, don't let it down. I think it's no worse than Guancheng, and even better in calligraphy and painting because of experience. I like children who are motivated and eager to learn, and I don't want to lose everything I have learned, and what I have learned in recent years. The experience I just summed up disappeared before I could pass it on to the students, so I followed the trend at your father's suggestion. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, in the final analysis, it is the students who are lucky enough to be able to become your disciple. She paused and lowered her voice. There are two things. Let me tell the teacher first, so that the teacher will not worry about you all the time. When Ruyu was about to go back to the bullpen with Father Lu. After hearing this, she was slightly startled and asked what was going on. That's senior brother Lu Xiaoneng and senior brother Fu Nan's Hung. When Ruyu blurted out, do you know their whereabouts? Why didn't you tell them just now? There were so many people just now, I felt it was inconvenient. Feng Qingxiu smiled lightly, without showing off, and said simply, senior brother Lu Xiaoneng and senior sister-in-law Lin Yufen are now settled in the senior sister-in-law's hometown, using their fake names and identities during the anti-Japanese war. Everything peace. We met once on the train and later through letters, so we became somewhat friends. When Ruyu suddenly said, the person who reminded them to leave their hometown was. I am the student. I felt that the situation was not right, so I reminded them a few words. It seems that I was right to remind them. At least the senior brothers and sisters-in-law are safe and sound and have not been affected by this disaster. Fate, fate, who would have thought that we would have such a fate? When Ruyu was filled with emotion, where is Nansheng? Feng Qingxiu hesitated for a moment. Senior brother Fu Nan's Hung, I forgot where I heard it. It seems that the Fu family in Shanghai is very rich and a national capitalist, but they took a boat to sea with their family 10 years ago. Senior brother Nansheng is the eldest son of their family. I guess it's because of the situation that I can't communicate with you. Okay, knowing that their lives are not in danger, my heart is half relieved. 10 chapters are updated in one go. Don't you think I should reward me with monthly recommendation votes? More rewards from yesterday.